The 60s were a very turbulent time. I mean, we had assassinations and burning cities and riots.
The 60s were all intense from day one till the end. But for locally, we had our own intensity and fights.
The 1960s contained great paradoxes, times of breathtaking hope and agonizing despair. In Indianapolis, these twin impulses coalesced around legislation that fundamentally reshaped the city. This creation, Unigov, is both the most acknowledged and least understood component of the modern city. It shaped both the limits and the possibilities that have helped to define Indianapolis into the 21st century. Prior to the 50th anniversary of Unigov in 2019, the Institute for Civic Leadership and Mayoral Archives sat down in December 2017 with 3 of the original architects of this legislation, as well as their critics.
The town I grew up in was a quiet, comfortable town. We had some good economic base, and we just functioned as a community. What we didn't recognize was the extent of the divisions that existed very comfortably in the community. Racism was here. We just didn't acknowledge it or recognize it. At the time I got back to Indianapolis, and as did my cohorts here, the city was a different city, and the strains were, I think, starting to show.
I have to tell you that in that meeting, the motivation was from a group of idealists. We were young idealists with a couple of exceptions. And we really, I think, were committed to a better city.
My dream, while I was spending all this time running for mayor, I was trying to think, this could be really a great city.
Finding a constructive way to build a great city had eluded Indianapolis civic leaders for decades. A similar attempt in 1965 by Marion County Democrats had failed.
We did create a strong mayor, and that was very disturbing to a lot of people. I mean, that's basically why we were attacked by the Indianapolis Star every day of the legislative session, as best I recall. And enough that I quit taking the paper so I wouldn't have to read about myself.
Just 4 years later, in 1969, Marion County Republicans led the effort to streamline local government and modernize the city. The driving force behind the move was a revitalized Republican organization led by L. Keith Bullen that helped to elect 35-year-old Richard Lugar mayor in 1967. The question of urban consolidation grew from private Sunday evening meetings at the home of John and Ardith Burkhart in early 1968. A handful of civic and political leaders met regularly with Mayor Lugar at the Burkhart House. Although their initial goal was to create a new public university in Indianapolis, the visionaries soon found themselves contemplating plans to improve the city. One fateful night, their conversation turned to metropolitan consolidation. Mayor Lugar's enthusiasm soon captivated the group.
We could be great. Now, then the question is how. And it seems to me that we had really a pretty good population around, all contiguous, really fairly well integrated, all things considered, that if we went to Unigov, we'd be in the top 10 cities. We would be recognized generally. We were already a transportation locus, crossroads of America. But people were not paying much attention to Indianapolis. So the question was, how would they do so?
The state constitution, adopted in 1851, did not empower local municipalities to govern themselves. 2 lawyers brought in for consultation, Lou Bose and Charles Witzler, determined that in order for consolidation to occur, legislation would have to be passed at the state level. Using the Greater Indianapolis Progress Committee, Lugar empowered a mayor's task force to study metropolitan government and come up with recommendations. These became the #1 priority during the 1969 legislative session. The plan would create a unified city-county council with 4 at-large seats and 25 single-member districts, unify key decision-making powers in the mayor's office, and create a structure of centralized administration that reported directly to the mayor. The physical size of Indianapolis would increase significantly, from 71 to 362 square miles, and the city's population would nearly double to become the nation's 11th largest. Not affected by the plan were Marion County schools, outlying community fire departments, the county sheriff, township trustees, and municipalities with populations over 5,000. Opponents raised two main objections. First, that the backers of Unigov did not seek to enact the change via referendum. Second, Democratic critics believed that the motivating factor was partisan in nature.
It was about where political power was going to be, and it was largely based upon whether or not you were going to dilute black voting in Indianapolis. And we were trying to maximize it, they were trying to minimize it.
In March 1969, Republican Governor Ed Whitcomb signed the bill into law. Effective January 1st, 1970, Indianapolis would be a dramatically different city.
Seizing power in the mayor's office was one of the keys to getting legislative relief and/or a voice in national government. All in all, I think you have to give the people who did put Unigov together a significant amount of credit for the success that Indianapolis has had over the intervening 50 years.
In my dreams about Indianapolis becoming a great city, about becoming something of significance, a lot of it was realized very rapidly by the fact that we adopted this. It was so dramatic that in Washington they noticed. In a lot of the federal aid that came out here, it may have been resisted by the chamber before that, but came in abundance. We were able, with the revenue sharing situation, to build the Market Square Arena and get the Pacers into the big leagues for sure, in which we've emerged as some place that people really wanted to come.
Indianapolis bucked the trend of its industrial neighbors, creating a sense of growth and excitement that fueled the city's political, capital, and cultural renaissance.